So now that we have PowerShell installed and the AZ module installed and we've connected to Azure, let's go ahead and create a virtual machine. That's in the past Azure RM module, the old one, it was a bit more difficult. You had to do a lot of different commands to create a virtual machine. Thankfully, Microsoft has remedied this, and the new AZ module makes it a lot simpler. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to create ourselves a resource group. Now, I find resource groups are helpful because it allows us to delete resources. So if a bunch of things get created into a resource group, once you're done with it, you can just delete the resource group and it deletes all of the associated resources. You'll find as you go into PowerShell that the commands are kind of predictable. I mean, there's always a verb followed by a hyphen, followed by the AZ, followed by the service name or the resource name. And so this is new AZ resource group. If I wanted to delete it, it would be delete resource group. If I wanted to get a list of all resources, it's get hyphen AZ resource group. So let's go ahead and create new AZ resource group. Now we have to give it a name, -name, and I'm going to call this AZSJD new RG test. It has to be unique on my account for this region, and I will hopefully that has not been done before. I have to choose a location. Location is the region. So I'm going to put this in the East US region. Hit enter, and this will go and create the resource group. We can see here it says succeeded. If we did go into the Azure portal, we would see an empty resource group with this name in it. Now we want to create the virtual machine. The command for creating a virtual machine is new AZVM. Very easy to remember in this instance. Now, the good thing about this is that it used to take many different commands to create a virtual machine, and now we can just give it the settings just like we do in the portal, and Azure will go off and create those resources. So, resource group name, we just created the AZSJD new RG test resource. So let's go ahead, use that one. Now we have to give the VM a name, that's -name, and this is called AZSJD new VM. Location, let's put the virtual machine and all of its resources in the same location as the resource group. We have to give the virtual network a name. Now, if we had an existing one, we could specify it. In this case, we don't. So we're going to give it a new name, and it'll create a new virtual network for me. Now, subnet, I'm happy with the default subnet name. The network security group. So if I say, if I hit the tab key, it automatically fills it. So security group name, and this is new NSG. And find the public IP address. So if we want this to have a public IP address and give that IP address a name, my IP address. And finally, which ports we want to get into this. Now, by default, you want none of them, but maybe you want 80 for the web server and 3389, which is the RDP port. Okay. Maybe we want 443 as well for the other web server. So 3389. So this new AZVM command, we're giving it all of the parameters just like we're going through the wizard. And when we hit enter, it should go off and create this virtual machine. Now these are going to be the administrator credentials. Remember, when we create a virtual machine, we have to give it a user ID and password. And so I'm going to give it the user ID. Thankfully, it still hides the password from me. And so I'm going to hit enter. So this is what we're going to use RDP to get access to the virtual machine using these credentials. Here we are showing us 8%. We're going to let that run. We'll come back to it. So that was it. It basically went off, created a new virtual machine within Azure. It's coming back with this status to say that it's worked. So let's head over to the Azure portal and just see that it's there. So this is cool. The AZ-SJD new VM is indeed running in that resource group. It's got an IP address. We can see that it successfully ran. Okay. Now, we could obviously from this point go and RDP into the machine. We make sure that the port number was open, download the RDP file, and connect right into it. But I just wanted to demonstrate to you that using PowerShell, relatively easy nowadays to create a virtual machine in one single command. I mean, we created the resource group, but in one single command, we've got a virtual machine. Now you'll notice that we didn't enter the instance type. We didn't add any additional disks or tagging. There's a lot of things we left out here, but Azure just went ahead and took the default size. So if we go back to the portal, we can see that it's a DS1 machine, so a very small machine. And if we wanted something different, we could have specified a different instance type. We also didn't specify the operating system, and it chose this Windows Server 2016. But if you need to use PowerShell to create a VM, I mean, look how simple it is. It could be fairly simple.